First off, Bama, thanks for joining me today and discussing what you've been through. So you're back. You're back in Ukraine now. That's great.
Yeah.
Tell me how important it is that you're back after what you've been through.
It's especially important to me. You know, I mean, there's so many factors, but I think it's really that this war's been going on for over 520 days, and it needs to stop. And the treatment I've received from the Ukrainian people, the love, the generosity, the support that they gave, like I feel part Ukrainian now. This is my country too, and so you know I want to do everything that I can to end this war. And you know, as unfortunate as my experiences were, it has given me a unique platform that I really want to use for good. I realize that there's some power behind my experiences that I can use to help Ukraine.
And because you were held in captivity for 104 days, you were tortured by the Russians. You have no ambiguity of what they're made of, what they will do. What is it you think Americans might not still get, even if they're supporting Ukraine? You know, what are they to be made clear about?
That's something I bring up a lot because, you know, I've heard in the States, oh, well, that's propaganda, or that's a deep fake, or they made that video up. The Russians really aren't doing that. That wasn't a mass grave. There's a lot of war fatigue going on, and with that comes some more denial. And so, you know, I want to say to anybody, if you have doubts about how brutal the Russians are, how evil they are, just come talk to me. I'm living proof of some of the horrible things that they do to people.
You mentioned war fatigue. Are you seeing, when you went back home, do you see Americans, you know, like turning back into the local problems and the national problems?
I think so. I mean, we have a short attention span to begin with, and I saw this happen during Iraq, where people just get tired of war, you know, and I understand that. I mean, the Ukrainians are pretty tired of war too. And I understand we have our own domestic issues and problems back home that we need to take care of, but people need to realize this is a worldwide issue. This is a bigger issue. If Putin is not stopped here and turned back, he's not going to be satisfied. He's going to go for the Baltic states, Moldova, then Poland, then NATO's involved. Like, we have to stop it here. Yeah. And the answer for war fatigue, if you are getting tired of sending material and money and support and all this stuff to Ukraine, the answer is to send it now. Absolutely everything they need. The tanks, the F-16s, the ATACMS, the HIMARS, everything they need, because they are using our weapons and our money and our equipment very effectively, very efficiently. They're doing battleground testing for us that we aren't even getting to do. When this war's over, they're going to train us on our weapon systems.
And in many capacities, they are the most trained army. They have the most experience fighting the Russians real time.
Exactly, yeah, real time, real world experience, and that's going to be beneficial to us. I really think when this war's over, they need to be accepted into NATO. They're going to be a very, very valuable NATO partner, and they've proven that they can win this war if we give them the tools to do so. Yeah. So we need to stop dragging our feet on giving them the tools.
If you don't mind, let's walk through, just for the viewers. There's a lot of what you've said is on plenty of interviews, especially certain details that we don't have to talk about here. But I am curious, just for the timeline. So you arrived last year in April, and you wound up being captured on June 9th.
Correct.
You were near you were north of Kharkiv, and so what happened in that situation?
We were a drone reconnaissance unit, and so there was just a team of 8 of us that had gone out. We were supposed to, you know, send up drones, spot artillery positions, and relay that back to the Ukrainians so they could hit those artillery positions. Right. Unfortunately, we were a little bit delayed on our departure time, so by the time we arrived at our site, there was already a firefight in process right where we were. You know, the fog of war is a real thing, and the team got a little bit split up. And some of us kind of stayed back to try and find some missing guys, and then we got split up even further, and we discovered after we got back that the 8 of us, and then at that point the 3 of us were facing an entire mechanized battalion of Russians with 80 armored vehicles, a few hundred troops, all that kind of stuff. So we were a little bit outnumbered, and the separation didn't help. And you know, Andy and I were pretty new to the team. We had driven an hour from base to hit this spot. So we tried for. Well, I mean, we had to hunker down till the firefight stopped. That was about 2 hours, and then we spent roughly 8 hours trying to hike our way through the thick woods and make our way back to base. But we ended up getting outmaneuvered by a Russian platoon, and they captured us.
Wow. So also, SOP might be a little different in certain, non-official groups and teams. You were deployed with one such group, and I remember reading that there was that someone that should have been there abandoned the team. Is that what I read in I think it was Washington Post and some other.
We like I said, we were vastly outnumbered. It was a very scary situation to be in.
So the team basically scattered in a way that.
In a way, we had put up the drones, and we realized we were about to be surrounded on 3 sides. Which staying in that environment, as one guy said, it's suicide, and in a lot of ways it was. But we're taught in the U.S. military, never leave a man behind.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So we had 2 guys that. The unit was really big on taking your own initiative, and based on what was happening, they had moved from their positions, and the team leader could not find them. So Andy and I and the team leader stayed back to find those guys.
And how many were round up with you? I mean, I know it was you and Andy, but how many did they capture in total?
That was it. Just
That's
us.
it. Wow.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate, and I'm glad you guys are not only safe, but you've been home repatriated, and now you're back. There's a lot of what happened to you was covered, but there are a few angles I'm kind of curious about when it comes to the big picture of where we're at. What do you think they were really obsessed with hearing out of you? What is it that the Russians needed you most to say?
That we were CIA.
That you were saying,
that's what they wanted.
Number one target.
That was number one, yeah.
Number one target's always that, right?
The CIA sent us, that they had paid our way, that the U.S. government was directly involved, and we were CIA.
Wow.
Yeah.
And as far as narratives about like weapons or not, I noticed in the forced interviews that you had, and we'll go over like whether it was and wasn't. It's pretty easy to say they were, but there was, hey, don't bother coming, some of those narratives, right? Right.
I mean, yeah, that was definitely forced on me, or sometimes I had to just say what they wanted to hear. Within limitations, you can't resist all the time. You have to give them something. So if you give them enough small things, then you can keep back the big things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was one thing that, I mean, honestly, they're because I was in the Legion so early on, it was a bit of a Wild West situation, and we did find that there were some guys that didn't need to be here.
Right.
We found ways to put them in roles where they wouldn't get other people killed or in trouble,
right.
Or we tried to get them home if we could. So I mean, some of that was accurate. A lot of guys come for the wrong reasons, and so that's why, even though they're like, tell them not to come, and I said, if you're gonna come, make sure you're coming for the right reasons. Yeah.
Would you say, after all that you've experienced, you would probably have the same message? Or do you think it's still an issue, and is there a warning you would give to the glory chasers or someone who's trying to find their life and that type of bit?
Definitely. I mean, if people come here for the wrong reasons, they hurt the war effort overall, because it takes us a while to vet them and to realize that, maybe they're just here for stories, or maybe they're here for the glory, or maybe they're here because they just want to kill people legally. There are a lot of wrong reasons to be over here, and it hinders those of us that are here for the right reasons, which is to save Ukraine, save democracy, save the free world. That's what this war is about.
Right.